Hi everyone. So my global action plan focuses on fitness and nutrition starting at a young age. Okay, so I'm going to talk about me first. Hi, I'm Kate. I go to Appleby College in grade 12. I'm 18. Next year, I'm going to be studying at the University of British Columbia, taking just a general science course. I've always had a passion for science. This year, I'm in biochem, physics, and exercise science. So those all apply to my plan. I've also been really involved in sports at school and outside of school. I've been a competitive gymnast for 8 years, practicing up to 25 hours each week. And I've been involved in lots of sports at Appleby as well, including cross country and lots of different non-varsity type Right, yes, okay. So at gymnastics, one of the things that we do is we're coaches in training, where we work with high-level coaches and we help teach the gymnasts who are in lower levels, so about 5 to 8 year olds. And I developed a strong passion for working with children through that. And then this year at Appleby College, I've been in the Health and Wellness Council. So I know the teachers and students at Appleby, they'll know. We hold a bunch of wellness days at Appleby, where everyone in the council helps out, and we plan these days that focus on teaching better nutrition and mental wellness throughout the school. And So when I started planning what to do for my global action plan, because I had a lot of trouble with this, I was going through different ideas and I couldn't find what I was really passionate about. So I started thinking about what I was involved in and what I like to do. So these are the things I like to do, and they all sort of led together to my global action plan, focusing on sports and nutrition. Next slide. So this statistic, I think, is crazy. 50% of obese elementary school students are going to grow to be obese in adulthood. So talking about obesity, there's lots of different factors that play into becoming obese, including genetics, environment, as well as different factors for everybody. Some of the biggest ones are genetics, which there's actually been a study recently that found out that 50 to 90% genetics play into 50 to 90% of your total average BMI, your body mass index. There's also a lot of, depending on your diet and how much physical activity you do, will also depend on what your weight is. There's also a lot of health problems that come along with obesity. There's heart disease, different kinds of cancer, diabetes, and if you're an obese child, these are going to be so much worse because they all start as you're much younger. There's also a lot of psychological problems that come with this. There's actually, there was a study that I found that that obese women and severely obese individuals were more likely to be depressed. And in Canada specifically, this is becoming a bigger and a bigger problem. So there's, not in the box, sorry. So there's, in the past 15 years, for elementary school boys, it's jumped from 11% to 33% of elementary school boys are obese, and for girls, it jumped from 13% to 27%. So it's just increasing and increasing, and this is a problem that we have to start facing and start trying to fix. So you'd ask, what can we do? So the solution, studies have revealed that a combination of both fitness and nutrition help to increase weight most efficiently. So for the longest, the weight stays off for the longest time, and you stay, and it happens the quickest. So, next slide. Okay, so for my global action plan, what I want to do is I want to target the problem at its root. I want to start with teaching elementary school students healthy lifestyles. So what I want to do is I want to start free after-school sessions. The area of my choice is going to be in the Bruce County area. I don't know if you know it. It's up by Lake Huron. It's about 3 hours away. I have a lot of family who lives up there. Like, most of my extended family lives there. I also have a cottage there, so I'm up there all year round. It's a much more rural area than we are here, and they don't actually have a lot of after-school programs offered to the students at those schools, which would make my program pretty unique up there. So what I want to do is run a program about 1 hour long after school. The goal is to get it 1 day every week throughout the school year, although it might not start out that much. So I want to be helping students in grades 1 to 3, depending on how big of an interest there is. If there's a small interest, larger grade range, that kind of thing. So what my whole plan is going to be is that in the 1 hour, I want to focus about 15 to 20 minutes on serving the students a nutritional after-school snack, as well as a short lesson on different healthy eating habits, and then spend about 40 to 45 minutes of physical activity, which is almost the whole. It's recommended that students get 1 hour of physical activity a day, so it's getting almost up to the required minimum. And in these games that they're the sports that they're going to do, I want to play games that involve maximum participation from students. So maybe obstacle courses, relay things, the types of game that everyone is involved in. Okay, so this is just a prototype, but I designed a flyer because one of the really important parts about my plan is that I'm going to have to speak with all of the parents of the students. My idea is to work with kids in really low grades, so speaking with their parents is really important. This highlights an information session. Hopefully it could be my first week with the students. I could talk to all of the parents. So my overall plan is that I want to run my sessions at a school and alongside a school. So in a gymnasium at the school, so I could have the help of a school to send out flyers and talk to the parents. But there are other alternatives if a school isn't willing to do it, where you could run it in a community center or just rent out the gymnasium of a school. So next slide. Okay. So I'm sorry. So I've actually developed one lesson plan for my general idea of what I want to do. And so I want to play one of the small games with all of you guys that I'm going to be doing with the students. So keep in mind, this is for grades 1 to 3, so it's pretty easy. But these are for you. These are for you guys. And these are for you. So these are all different types of foods, and the general plan of the lesson would be that I would explain the 4 different food groups, and then you can all divide the foods into the 4 different food groups. So you can go ahead and do that. Awesome. Congrats, you guys. So these are the types of games that I want to play with the students that are going to be in my program. I want simple games that are going to be fast, that get the knowledge to the students so that they do know what's going on. And then they'd all go outside and do some sort of physical activity. I'm not going to make you guys do that, don't worry. So next slide, please. So now you're probably asking, like, how am I going to do this? Because there's a lot of steps that you need to do to get where I want my program to be. So first of all, I want my program to be free because there's a statistic. It's on a Sport Check commercial, I think. It's that 1 in 3 students can't afford after-school programs. So I want my program to be free because I want all 3 of those students to be able to join. And especially because I may need to rent out a space, I may need to hire people to help me run it, and I may need, and I am going to need to pay for after-school snacks for the students. I'm going to need money. So I actually looked into a couple different grants and sponsorships that would be that my program would be eligible for, and there's 2 that my program would work really well with, which would be the Early Childhood Enhancement Grant or an RBC sponsorship, where they actually, both of these sponsor elementary school after-school programs, especially ones that teach helpful lessons, not just where you go out and play, but ones that teach nutritional, physical lessons. There's also a lot of legalities to working with children. So I've looked into a couple of them, and I know I definitely still have more research to do on this, but there's a couple of things that you have to do. You definitely have to become a licensed child care provider. I actually got this off of the page where it talks about all the requirements that you need to become a licensed child care provider, and you just do it through the Ontario Ministry of Education. Another part of the legalities is that I'd have to be working with other people because, as you can see on the little chart, for school-age kids, if there's 1 employee, which would be me, you can only work with 15 students, so I'd need a lot more people to be helping, especially if I want to do it in a school where there's lots and lots of kids. And then working with a school is another big, like, how am I going to do that? Because I'd have to convince a school to let me use their gym and help me, like, use their resources and everything. Although my program is a free program that happens after school, so it seems like a pretty good deal. But there are different options I could do if no schools want to buy into my idea, which could include renting out a gymnasium, going to a community center. So there's also a lot of risks with working with children. There's, since I'm serving food, there's allergies definitely to be considered. There's also, since there's physical activity going on, lots of first aid or accidents that could happen with small children. Kids are also in, like, the vulnerable sector age group, so you have to be really careful about anything that could happen to them. And potentially working with other people, they'd have to go through a lot of rigorous training and police checks to be able to work with kids. And then one of the things that we learned about in global leadership was our different soft skills, and we did this really cool activity where everyone wrote what they thought their what other people's soft skills were, so what types of leadership skills they have. And 2 of the ones I got very often were really organized and high energy, which is you really need those skills to be running a program, especially a program with children. So you can get that. So then, this is my 5-year plan, and so like I said at the beginning, next year I'm going to be going to UBC, and what I want to continue is starting up planning, organizing. I need to figure out exactly what kinds of grants, exactly what kinds of licenses I need, which is going to take more work than what I've already done. I also want to completely come up with an entire class schedule for what I'm going to be teaching, so that once I actually contact a school, I have everything ready. I don't want to be contacting them with like just an idea. I want to be contacting them with a plan. So then my second year, I'm going to be continuing at school, and what I want to do then is, once I have all the information, I want to apply for grants or sponsorships to try and get the money to run these programs. Next year, again, I'm at school at UBC, and then I want to be speaking with different elementary schools by then, going up to my cottage in that area and talking with, there's 2 or 3 elementary schools just in that town, so talking with all of them, seeing if they'd be interested in something like that, and just starting to get contacts. So my fourth year, I'm debating taking a gap year to run a program all year long, or university ends in like April, May. So I could always design a program that just runs for 2 months at the very end of the school year as a prototype of my program, and then I'd be able to talk to the students, talk to the volunteers who are working with me, and see if, like, what types of things I can improve upon. And then my final 5th year, I'm going to continue school. If I'm not in my undergrad anymore, I'm going to be doing a graduate degree. And I'm going to prepare to run new sessions the following year, too. And taking in all the considerations that people were giving me the year before, and like a test run almost. So that's my plan. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Kate, for your presentation. I'd like to open it up to questions from the panelists. You can go.
Oh, okay. I have a question. You were talking about some of the sort of challenges with obesity. I wonder how much you address socioeconomics in your research, perhaps, or in what it is that you intend to do. Mm-hmm. So you're speaking a lot to kids about this, but I'm wondering how you're also incorporating families and things like that.
So in my research, it did say definitely that different like socioeconomic like levels have different access, or different like obesity rates and everything. And just what I want to do is make my programs like free and optional to everybody, so that like everyone can have the chance at this.
I think the other part of the question that Mr. Richardson was asking was, would you consider the parents in the information? I would sort of that awareness raising.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I don't think I'd be able to run it with parents as well. That's a really large commitment. But just with the children, like, they can bring information home to their families as well. And it would be mainly aimed at children, because I want to start healthy lifestyles at the beginning so they can grow up into them as well.
You did mention that you'll be providing snacks to the students who come in your program. But I was wondering, is when they go back, they'll be eating the same food that they normally do at home. So would you be giving them some small lessons as well, what they should eat and what they should not eat?
Yeah.
Apart from the actual exercises that they will be doing in the program?
Yeah, for about like the 15 first minutes, not only do I want to like serve them like after school snacks, but I also want to, like with the little game that I showed you, I'd want to spend about 10 minutes like standing in front of everyone as they like all snacked on their foods and explain the importance of the 4 food groups. Then the next week explain like how much you should be eating of each of the food groups, kind of thing, so that they can learn the information, but also in a fun way.
I was just curious if you'd ever incorporate any gymnastics in your program, given your interest and background.
Like, I wish I could have it be in more of a bigger part in it, but there are a lot more like safety concerns with that. Maybe sort of like a field trip to a gymnastics center, like 1 class for the year, but not like more than that, just because there's so many more safety concerns. Yes,
but yeah, like that, things like that. That is still tough. That's a too.
Yeah.
Now you'll be dealing with very small kids, and as you mentioned, there's a safety issue and they can get hurt. Now, do you know that if there is a health center type of place close to where you will be running this program, or maybe a transport that can take them there, or maybe like how will you manage in case somebody gets hurt? Do you have something like that? Because that's a very important
It is. I haven't actually thought that in depth about it, but there are hospitals like in that area in case anything does happen. But I'd also want to be, before I started this, I should have added that into my plan. But I'd want to be first aid and like CPR certified so that I can help with anything if anything does happen. But like you would take them to like a hospital, probably with an ambulance, if anything like really bad was happening. Yes.
I'm just curious to know if maybe like how Canadian children are compared to the rest of the world in terms of obesity. Do you know?
Not completely, but they are like. The obesity is like rising really high in Canada. I'm not exactly sure how it is compared to the other countries actually, but
it's rising.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, you're going to be in BC, and I'm sure there are challenges that exist across the country. And obviously you have a connection to Bruce Campbell. But would you ever consider doing something in BC? I mean, you're going to be there for a year. Year. Maybe you could adopt or adapt your program somehow and do it there, and
definitely,
perhaps interact a little bit more throughout the year with school groups and approach them face to face.
Definitely, and if like I do want to try my trial run on like a smaller scale, but if that type of thing goes well, it would probably be a really good idea to take it over there as well, since I am going to be there like the majority of the year, I suppose. Yeah.
You may also find that that's more of a cultural lifestyle in BC too. Just that, especially the exercise part of things. You might find folks are more amenable potentially to that, depending on what you do.
Beautiful outdoor spaces there.
Beautiful. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
So, you say you're going to teach them like lessons on how to eat healthy. How are you going to encourage them to eat healthy, though? In terms of, because like, a lot of kids don't like to eat vegetables and whatnot. Like,
I would like to know. Y'all at Appleby would like to know.
Yeah. Right? That's just like a general thing, and it's just about keeping everything in moderation. You can still have, like, teaching them that you can still have, like, chocolate and ice cream, just like you should be, like, complementing that with, like, some broccoli and salad as well, getting, like, a wide range of, like, healthy foods as well as, like, the good tasting foods.
One last thing you may want to just take a peek at, and this is more from a school standpoint, are some of the ways that nutrition is handled at schools around the world. So if you look at, say, for example, the French school system, they have school lunches that rival some of our restaurants. And they are very, very, very strict on how they're going to teach kids, how they serve the kids. There may be some neat things that you might find that sort of just are interesting things to learn in general. Not that you'd be able to apply that to your own, but there are definitely places, probably even in Canada, I'm not sure, that have sort of specific models of nutrition for young kids. So just as something to think of.
Yeah, thank you.
I think.
Okay. Thank you.